Hey guys, Tarke here, and I want to complain a lot this video, so get ready about it, but I don't want to complain about what you think I want to complain about looking at this. So, if we go through the GGG announcement thread, you can see MTX blah blah blah, MTX blah blah blah, MTX blah blah blah, MTX blah blah blah. For the people who've been bitching about the amount of MTX post-release, it's because they've changed how they sell their MTX. Before, they would make like 10 MTX and they would list 10 MTX at once. Now what they're doing is they're releasing them one at a time. So they're announcing them one at a time. Because of that, they stretch it out. Don't be pissed off that they're announcing their MTX slightly differently rather than working on the league. Now, if you want to be pissed off at the MTX model, be pissed off that instead of releasing everything at once, they drip feed it to the community, because by drip feeding it to the community, players are more likely to overspend or buy more MTX than they originally want. If I give you 10 t-shirts to purchase from and say buy one of my 10 t-shirts and you can only afford like 3, you'll pick your favorite 3 at the start and buy them. If instead I show you t-shirts one a week, you are more likely to go, oh, I like this one, I'll buy it. Oh, I like this one, I'll buy it. Oh, shit, this 7th one is actually my favorite. I've bought it. Because they use a points-based system, because of microtransactions, because of boxes, and because of supporter packs, it is in their favor to drip feed MTX. By drip feeding MTX, you have leftover points. What do you spend your leftover points on? You spend your leftover points on loot boxes. If you want to be annoyed about the MTX model, be annoyed at the MTX model. Don't be annoyed that they're doing clever marketing, because all that this staggered release is clever marketing. If I sound kind of pissed off, it's because I'm kind of pissed off. Right, so that's that. Now, I'm going to put some map footage on in the background, and I'll just ramble on for a few minutes while we watch some match footage. For the last 5 or so years that I've played Path of Exile, Path of Exile has become increasingly faster. Undeniably so. Now, a lot of people are upset because Bestiary League is trying to slow down the game too much or something, or it just feels like a stupid mechanic that you can't engage with, or insert this, insert that, insert this, insert that. Now, I've struggled for a really long time with the meta and the fact that the meta hasn't changed for a year. I've actually started playing SSF, and since I've played SSF, I'm now playing skills like Cleave, as you can see now. Without Hemophilia gloves, without Gladiator explosions, it's a much slower playstyle. And with a much slower playstyle, because I've put myself in an SSF environment, I'm really enjoying Bestiary League. One of my favourite leagues was Invasion. The leagues that I enjoy is stuff like Invasion and stuff like Beyond. I like leagues which are like, they're present and they slow you down, but it feels organic. So with Beyond, the way that Beyond works, you kill monsters, little orbs spawn. You kill enough monsters in one place, a bunch of mobs instantly spawn. I like that like organic feeling. Ambush, you have a strong box, you click the strong box, mobs jump out of the strong box, you see it, you instantly recognize it, right? So I like it kind of like, you're playing the game normally, you see an opportunity for reward, you get the reward. That's what I like. I wasn't a fan of Legacy League. Legacy League felt very clunky to me. The reason why it felt very clunky to me was it broke up the gameplay in what I felt was a unnatural manner. Every couple of maps you had to put in your league stones, they had random charges, so it didn't feel natural, and you didn't choose when you want to engage with the league. For example, with Bestiary, I can just knock out like 20 maps, capture 20 beasts, and then be like, I want to do some beast crafting now, and then I go to the menagerie. Now, there are problems with this system because there are limits to the amount of beasts that you can capture, which is whatever, and things with, using the wrong beast type, etc. It needs improving. I'm not going to sit here and say that Bestiary is perfect. I've said many times before that Bestiary is a fucked league and it released in a pretty unexcusable state. But guys, we play Path of Exile. Like, every league releases in a terrible state, and then they give it some time, and then it gets better. Don't pretend that this is the first league in the 5 years that you've played this game where it's released in a slightly shoddy state at launch. Breach had unplayable lag for so many people. We love Breach because now Breach is in a state where it doesn't lag us out and it feels good. Breach launched terribly. There were so many problems with Breach at launch. So many problems with Breach at launch. There have been a lot of people praising Harby now. Harby released in a terrible state. It was annoying as all hell. It didn't feel like organic gameplay because instead of running maps and choosing when you engage with the system, you ran a map, there's this obnoxiously bright blue dude, and then you have to stop and wait for a minute while he slowly summons in little shitty packs of mobs, right? After about a month or like 3 weeks or something, they then sped up the spawn rate and it felt kind of better. That took a month, right? We're 3 weeks in, and every week we've had 1 or 2 mini patches trying to improve the league. Did Bestiary release in a terrible state? Yes. Has everyone acknowledged it? Yes. Stop the fucking melodrama. I've seen so many Reddit threads and videos in the last few days about how, like, this is some never before seen bullshit. How, it's completely shilled out, blah, blah, blah. Like, where have you been? Where have you been for the last X many, years? X many leagues. Right. Abyss. Abyss is a league which released in a pretty shoddy state and now feels pretty good. A lot of people have been saying, Abyss has been integrated into the game in a pretty good state. Now, I've said this before on Bayclast, Bestiary to me feels like an expansion, not a league. I think the real fault with Bestiary is that they tried to shoehorn it into a league rather than fully flesh it out as an expansion. And if it'd been fully fleshed out as an expansion, as a long-term core part of the game, I think it's good, it has potential. Prophecy, if you like Prophecy, you engage with it. If you don't like it, you just ignore it. That's what Bestiary will end up being. If you don't like Bestiary, then just ignore it. Just capture the odd, rare legendary beast, and once a day of mapping, you might get something cool, right? Cool. People praise Perendus, how Perendus was their favourite league. Perendus was unplayable for the vast majority of the player base when it launched. It was laggy as hell. The stuff was seriously overtuned. It would completely destroy people who'd never played the game before. The early leveling with Perendus packs in very tight areas like Submerged Passage, level 1, level 2 zones, completely decimating you with magma orb spam, all this crazy clutter, bugs where they wouldn't spawn until you kill the boss. They wouldn't stop despawning. They'd have them infinitely spawning, weird bugs where you weren't getting the right amount of coins at the end of it. You then finally kill all of these things and you have to pick up like 100 coins one at a time. Every league that's commonly praised for being the best league ever or people's favourite league was annoying as hell at one point and has improved with time. Bestiary is currently annoying as hell, but it's going to improve with time. Backtracking a little bit, it's about how I was kind of saying that I've played this game for 5 years and it's gotten faster and faster and faster. I'm one of the old school players who enjoyed the slower aspects of Path of Exile. As the game got faster, past Ascendancy, me, much like many other streamers who've all quite publicly had their period of like hating on Path of Exile, then they're like accepting of Path of Exile. There wasn't like a check sent to us randomly and that changed our mind on it. It's just, it was like, okay, this is the direction the game is going. We've accepted it and we've learned to love Path of Exile again. Now, what worries me is that the player base is exploding, which is really good. But because of how the leagues have been scheduled, the player base has a warped mindset. This sounds really overdramatic, and my apologies for that. So in 3.0, a lot of people who'd never played the game, they get attracted by the 10x. A lot of people who haven't played for years come back, they get attracted to it. Cool. 3.1, another expansion. Massive, huge player base. A lot of people love Legacy and Hobby so much because it was their first proper league. Like, that's when they started playing, or they were returning players, and that was the first time they ever truly hit endgame. We had Breach, which just rained currency on you, right? You then had Legacy, which just rained currency on you. You then had Hobby, which just rained currency on you. You then had Abyss, which just rained currency on you. There's no grand conspiracy. Einhardt isn't stealing your alks with nets. He's not stealing your maps. You've just had like 4 or 5 leagues of being spoon-fed shit, and now you're not being spoon-fed shit. You feel like, what the hell? This is what the game is. This is what the game was. You had 4 or 5 leagues of just being like given like really sped up crazy fast progression, and now you're like, whoa, what's happened to my Path of Exile? This is normal Path of Exile. This is what Path of Exile is. It's just this league isn't just gramming stuff down your face. Now, to caveat that, I'm not anti-fun. Mayhem is some of the most fun I've ever had in this game, and Mayhem just rains stuff on you. Now, I'm not a developer, and you're not a developer, dude writing angry YouTube comment, but I actually need to think to myself, is it good for GGG to regularly do Mayhem-style events? Because once you give something to the player base, it's very hard to then take it away. I know that Mayhem spoiled Abyss League for me. I'm someone who's, calling, people out for, you've just been spoilt by X-Men leagues. I was spoilt by Mayhem. I really struggled to enjoy Abyss League because of how much fun I had in Mayhem, and Mayhem really spoiled me. I think that one thing that seriously needs to be talked about, and one thing which really needs to be thought and addressed going forward with league design, is how much reward you give to the player base, and then how regularly you back-to-back these very reward-heavy leagues, especially around expansions. As I said, you have a lot of people whose their first real experience of Path of Exile was like 3.0, 3.1, right? If you have someone who's never played the game before, their first league is Legacy League, and they're just being given so much loot drops, then they go from that into Hobby and be given so much map drops. They've played the game for almost a year at that point, because Legacy lasted for like 6 months, Hobby lasted for like 3 months, they played Abyss. If you've played Legacy, Hobby, and Abyss, you've played Path of Exile for nearly 1 year. After 1 year of playing a video game, you would think you have a pretty good understanding of it. You think you get this game, you've followed it, you go, this is how this game works. Then suddenly you get handed Bestiary, and you're like, whoa, you guys fucked up. This is a completely different game. It's a seasonal thing. Anyway, I realised that I've come across really overly condescending and very overly angry. I've just been very triggered by Reddit recently. But yeah, does Bestiary need improving? Yes. Does Bestiary have potential? Yes. Why do I think Bestiary has potential? As someone who's been playing SSF, I've been excited every single time I see a legendary beast. I find it very similar to seeing Kadiro. Every time I see it, there's the, oh, what will I get? I need to change the way I play, but if I want to, I can just skip it. I can play builds which are better at the mechanic. I can play builds which are worse at the mechanic. Do the rare yellow mobs die way too easily? Yes, but they're working on it. I've had 2 Spirit Beast fights in SSF. I haven't really played that much this league. For some people, I play more than anyone. But if you look at like Uber's had like 15, 17 Spirit Beast fights. And also, there's been some recent threads on Reddit that I do also kind of agree with. People complain that stuff which killed their favourite game, being World of Warcraft, was the game going too casual. There was too much forced accessibility to content, etc, etc, etc. If you work hard enough, you can reach the content. In Trade League, you can buy into the content. What needs to change isn't super over accessibility, but just pushing away from over RNG mechanics. More leagues which use the Breach style system of spawning bosses, where you slowly work towards a goal, you collect your fragments, you get your key. If you farm at Zeri, you farm at Zeri. Eventually, you get a full Uber at Zeri set. You can then go Uber at Zeri. There's still RNG there, but it's RNG you can see, and it's RNG that you can kind of feel, rather than just at some point I'll get a random legendary beast, right? It needs improving. It's not the end of the world. People freaking out about MTX. You're freaking out about the wrong thing about MTX. I'm Tarke. I'm really sorry for how angsty that video was. I am very edge, man. Have a good day. Bye-bye.